Good evening, folks, and welcome to this week's episode of Beer Rating with Sean Connors. As you can see, the beer I have today is Petrus Aged Pale. I thought it was Petrus, but I'm doing a little bit of research. I think it's Petrus, P-E-T-R-U-S. Now, it's a Belgium beer. It's an ale. I'm going to read the label. There's not a lot of information there. It says Petrus Aged Pale is a 100% foeder beer, aged for 24 months in our oak foeders. For years has been the reference beer for sour beers. Moreover, ever since the start of the breweries, this beer has been used as a blending beer with other beers to give them fresh, slightly sour flavors and aromas. And it just gives the ingredients: water, barley malts, hops, and that's about it. Alcoholic content 7.3, so a little bit higher than your average beer. So I'll just crack it open, we'll pour it up, and then I'll talk a little bit about it. A lot of that I wanted to talk about is already covered on the label read, but give my glass a cold water rinse as per usual. Just basically cool down the glass, get rid of any dust that might be in the glass. Ooh, it is extremely sour smell. And it's a sour beer, obviously. This is Sour Beer Month with Beer Rating with Sean Connors. This is the second beer for the month of November, Sour Beer Month. And the glass I'm using, this is a glass, a similar glass I used before, the Tiku glass. It's supposed to be the ultimate beer tasting glass, just from the shape of it and everything else. I'm not going to go into details, as I did in a previous episode. Alright, so a little bit ahead there. A nice gold color, and the smell is, or aroma, is really strong. It's almost like it's a sour fruit kind of aroma. Very interesting. And really sour. I've only had a couple sour beers in the past. I had another one from Petrus, and that was a blended ale, and I'll talk about that in a second. And last week I had, the Pucker Up, and the Pucker Up I found was a little bit sour, but this one is even more sour. Now when I say sour, that's not necessarily a bad thing. It is an acquired taste, I'll say that much. It's not something, like if you've never had a sour beer and you weren't expecting it, and once someone gave it to you, it'd throw you for a loop for sure. It's definitely interesting, I'll give it that much. A little bit about the beer in the brewery and just Belgium in general. As I said, it's a Belgian beer. The name of the brewery, it's obviously I believe it's a Dutch word. Name of the brewery is De Brabandere Brewery. D-E-B-R-A-B-A-N-D-E-R-E. De Brabandere Brewery. Like I said, I'm probably bastardizing that, and if I am, I apologize to any of my Belgian followers. The brewery has been around since 1894, so they've been around for quite some time. It started off as a father and son operation, and it's still actually in the same family, so I think they're on their 5th generation. And I'm pretty sure they specialize in sour beers. I know they do a different line of different beers, but I think the sour beer, the Petrus, is one of their main ones. I could be wrong there. As I said, this one is 7.3% alcohol, and on the beer here somewhere, yes, it says 100% foeder beer, and I had no idea what that was, so I had to look it up. A foeder beer, it comes from obviously beer, but foeder is basically a word for a type of wooden barrel, but not your standard wooden barrel what we're used to. My understanding of foeder is a huge wooden barrel that's used to age beer, and I believe they're also used for wine. And the ones that they use are actually 22,000 liters. So you're not talking your average barrel. These are huge barrels. And this beer is actually, they're oak barrels, and this one is actually aged in the foeder barrels for 24 months, a long time. And they don't get there's no oak flavoring. It's specifically used for, as I said, it's a sour beer, and they don't add, my understanding, and once again, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I'm not. My understanding is that they don't add any specific agents such as yeast or bacteria to get the sour. It's basically, the oak barrels are used as a cultivating area for the yeast and the bacteria to give it the sour flavor. And also, being oak, being wooden, it actually controls oxidation. So the wooden barrels, obviously, it's not impermeable, so the oxygen can get through the barrels. It just takes a long time. So they say it helps control oxidation. What else as I said, it said on the thing, it's a reference for sour beers. And I don't know how true that is. I mean, the brewery itself is saying that, but they've been around, like I said, since 1894. So it's quite possible that when new breweries are looking at sour beers, this is the one they go to. And they say it's a blending beer, which that I didn't really know much about. But as I said earlier, the first sour beer I had, it was actually, I think it was half sour, half blonde, I believe it. And it was bottled as such, and was known as a beer to get you used to sour beers. And my understanding, they actually do several different blends of beers that basically use the Petrus Aged Pale as their blending agent. So basically, this is what they call the mother beer for all the other beers. So basically, they'll take this beer, add it to a different beer to give a lighter sour beer, I guess you could say. So it could be like half sour, half pale, as the one I mentioned. I think they do another one, it's a red. So I assume it's a red ale with half sour. So there you go. That's a little bit about the Petrus. Petrus, yes. As I said, it's a Belgian beer, and my understanding from a little bit of research I have been doing, Belgian beer, well, Belgium in general is known for beer. I read, I believe it was in my Oxford Compendium of Beer, might have been another book, because I actually have several there, that actually said beer is to Belgium what Cuba is for cigars, or what France is to wine. So they're really, really serious about their beers. I don't know if you ever heard the term Trappist breweries, and that's basically monasteries that actually brew their own beer. And there's only, I believe, 5 Trappist breweries, official Trappist breweries. And I believe 4 are in Belgium and 1 in the Netherlands. I could be off there, but you get the basic idea. They're pretty big on their breweries, or on their beers, and sour beers seem to be a big thing. A lot of times they'll use oak and wheat as well as barley. A little history about Belgium and their beers. Bottle conditioning is quite common, so basically it does a second fermentation in the bottle. Don't think this is one of them, but it is quite common. World War I, well, I should step back. Belgium has been a beer giant for quite some time. And actually, World War I, the Germans came in. My understanding is most of the breweries were stripped. They were stripped of all the metal, the kettles, everything else. They wanted the metals. So brewing pretty well became non-existent at the start of World War I. Basically, the breweries were stripped. I'm sure there was smaller home breweries, but they were pretty well, all the big breweries were stripped. And after the war, in 1919, this is what I found really interesting, Belgium enacted a law basically banning distilled spirits in bars and cafes, and that actually stood in place until 1984. So they were pretty serious about getting their beer back online. Now, with that being said, because there was no distilled spirits, I guess they started upping the alcohol content of a lot of their beers. I guess people wanted something a little bit stronger than beer, so they actually started developing strong beers. So after, obviously, they got back on track. World War II happened again, and of course, they knew what was coming, so a lot of the breweries actually buried their kettles in farmers' fields and whatever, just to hide them from the Germans type of thing. And then after the war, they dug them up, and they were able to start pretty quick. And just another thing they said Belgium is a pretty small country. It's surrounded by some pretty big players. Germany, trying to get my geography straight now. Germany, France, Netherlands, I believe. So some pretty big powers for a little country. And if you go to Belgium, it's quite a diverse country. I found. You go to different areas. They'll speak. One area might speak German. Another area might speak French. Another speak Dutch. What they said, Belgium is split among religious, linguistics, and political lines. And if you go to Belgium, the beers, you're going to get the influence of their neighbors. They said, you get beers, some of them have the French flair, the German precision, and the Dutch sturdiness. So there you go, a little bit about Belgium and their beers. Alright, I guess I should give this a rating. It's definitely sour. But like I said, it's not a bad thing. It's like sour as in refreshing sour, if that makes sense. Like on a hot summer day, you have a lemonade. You got the tartness, but it's good. It's definitely one that I'm enjoying. It's definitely bitter and tart. I don't think, excuse me, I don't think it's one I'd go out of my way for on a regular basis to have, but it's nice to have every now and then. And with that being said, for the Petrus Aged Pale, I think I'm comfortable giving this one, once again, my ratings, a 1 is, I don't like it, I'm not going to finish it, it's being poured down the drain. A 2 is, it's not my thing, but I'm not going to waste a beer, I'll finish it. A 3 is a good beer, a 4 is a very good beer, and a 5 is the best beer. For this one, it's different, but not in a bad way. I'm enjoying it, and I will definitely finish it. I think I'm comfortable giving it a 3.5. I was going to say 3, but I am enjoying it. It's not something, like I said, I'd go out of my way for, but sour beers are an acquired taste. And although I don't mind them, I haven't completely acquired the taste for sours yet. I know Chris is one of my normal viewers, normal followers, and he's a big sour beer person. So I'm hoping he's tried it before. I'm hoping he'll comment and let me know what he thinks. And if not, I'm hoping he'll pick one up. So there you go, 3.5. I think I'm comfortable with that. It's a good beer. I'd definitely have it again, but I wouldn't go out of my way to have it, unless, of course, I'm in Belgium, and then I'm going to soak them up as quick as I can. So there you go, folks. That's my rating for the Petrus Aged Pale, 3.5. And next week, I have 2 sours left. I have a Gose, which is from Dildo Brewery. And then I have another one, which is a Blood Orange and Tangerine Sour. So I'm going to get those done this month for sure. And if anybody's following me on Facebook, I posted a picture today. I was at the liquor store. I picked up a 4-pack of Lambic with this glass, came with it. And I knew Lambic, I knew it was a Belgian beer, but I didn't know much more about it. And I came home and basically, I'm not going to give too much information on it because I'll do that when I do the tasting. It's a type of Lambic, Lambic. It's a type of sour beer. So I got 4 of them from the same brewery. Now I was going to do a month of Lambic, but I don't want to do 4 in a row of the same brewery. And they're only smaller bottles. I'll show you one of them. This is their raspberry one, so it's a small bottle. So I think what I'm going to do a, hopefully in November, before the end of the month, I'm going to do a special episode where I'll do all 4 of the Lambics. I have I shall bring them all out just so you can see them. Now, as I said, they're all from the same brewery, but I have a raspberry, a farro, a cherry. Now I'm using the English words. They call it a K-R-I-E-K, and then the raspberry is the French word for raspberry, which I'm not going to. And this one, Pecorese, which I had no idea, which is basically peach. So they're obviously, you can get the idea that they're fruit flavored, but I'm not going to get much into it. So there you go, folks. That's upcoming sometime. I'm not quite sure when, and the other 2 will be within the next 2 weeks for sure. So there you go, folks. That's my episode for this week. As always, until next beer, enjoy responsibly. Cheers.